Walking home through the dimly lit streets of my small town, I stumbled upon an abandoned cell phone lying in the gutter, its screen faintly glowing with an eerie persistence. Curiosity getting the better of me, I picked it up, brushing off the grime. I'm Alex, just your average college student, not one to believe in the supernatural or anything out of the ordinary. But that night, everything I thought I knew about the world was about to change. The phone was an older model, one I hadn't seen in years, and it had no identifying marks or case. I figured someone might call looking for it, so I pocketed it and continued my walk home. Once inside, I placed the phone on my desk and forgot about it as I dove into my studies. It wasn't until later that night, as the silence of my room enveloped me, that the phone rang, piercing the quiet with its shrill tone. Startled, I glanced at the screen, expecting to see a familiar area code. Instead, the caller ID simply read, "Unknown." Hesitantly, I answered. "Hello?" My voice echoed slightly, a hint of static underlying the connection. "Alex." The voice on the other end was a whisper, barely audible, laced with a sadness that sent shivers down my spine. It was a voice I recognized but couldn't possibly be hearing. My grandfather, who had passed away the previous year, was calling me. I froze, my mind racing to make sense of the impossible. "This can't be real," I muttered to myself, ending the call and convincing myself it was some sick prank. But as the night wore on, the phone rang again and again, each time displaying "unknown" as the caller, each time featuring the voice of someone I knew to be dead. There was my childhood friend, Sarah, who had tragically drowned during a summer camp when we were kids. Her voice was just as I remembered, filled with the laughter and warmth that had defined her. "Alex, it's so dark here," she said, her tone shifting to one of confusion and fear. Then came a call from Mrs. Thompson, my high school English teacher, who had inspired my love for literature. She had succumbed to illness just after I graduated. "Alex, keep writing," she urged, her voice fading in and out as if carried by a distant wind. With each call, a deepening sense of dread took root within me. The voices were too real, too familiar to be fabrications. I needed answers. I scoured the internet for any clue, any explanation for what was happening, but found nothing that could explain calls from beyond the grave. The turning point came with a call from my Aunt Marie, who had been like a second mother to me. She had passed away unexpectedly, leaving a void in our family that had never quite healed. "Alex, you need to listen," she said, her voice urgent. "You've been given a gift, a bridge between the worlds, but with it comes a responsibility." Her words hung heavy in the air, a cryptic message that I struggled to comprehend. A gift? A responsibility? What was I supposed to do with this haunting ability to communicate with the dead? In the days that followed, I became a conduit for the voices of the departed. Some expressed their regrets, others their love and farewells they never had the chance to say. Each call left an indelible mark on my soul, a reminder of the thin veil that separates life from death. I realized that this phone, this unassuming piece of technology, had become a lifeline for those on the other side, a way to reach out, to make peace with their unfinished business. And for me, it became a mission, a way to help these lost souls find their peace, to deliver their final messages to those they left behind. But with this mission came isolation. Who could I tell? Who would believe such an outlandish tale? I bore the weight of this gift in solitude, the phone a constant companion that connected me to a world unseen. As I sit here, recounting my story, the phone lies silent on my desk. I've come to understand the ebb and flow of its calls, the unpredictable nature of its connection to the other side. I've helped many find their peace, and in doing so, I found a sense of purpose I never knew I was missing. But the mystery of the phone remains. Where did it come from? Why me? These are questions I may never have answers to. What I do know is that life is a tapestry of connections, some seen, some unseen, and sometimes the most profound connections are the ones we least expect. So if you ever find an abandoned phone ringing in the silence of the night, answer it. You might just be the lifeline someone is desperately searching for.
The incessant beep of my alarm jolted me awake, a harsh reminder that another monotonous day awaited. My name is Sam, a data analyst by trade, living a life defined by routine and predictability. Little did I know, that very day would shatter the illusion of my mundane existence and thrust me into a reality where every shadow concealed a threat, every stranger a potential adversary. It started as an ordinary Tuesday. I grabbed my usual coffee from the corner shop, exchanged the customary pleasantries with the barista, and made my way to the office. The city was a hive of activity, people lost in their own worlds, a symphony of life that I had become numb to. As I settled into my cubicle, I noticed an envelope on my desk, stark against the clutter of reports and paperwork. It was plain, with no markings or indications of its origin. Curiosity piqued. I tore it open, expecting some mundane memo or another piece of bureaucratic red tape. Inside was a single photograph and a note. The photo was of me, taken from a distance, unaware, a candid moment captured by an unseen observer. The note, however, was what sent a chill down my spine. "We're watching," it read, in a neat, unassuming script that belied the ominous message it conveyed. I scanned the office, paranoia taking root. Everyone seemed engrossed in their work, oblivious to the turmoil that had just upended my world. Was this some kind of sick joke? A misguided attempt at intimidation by a disgruntled colleague? I had no enemies, no skeletons in my closet, or so I thought. The day dragged on, the photo and note burning a hole in my pocket. I was distracted, jumping at the slightest sound, seeing malice in every glance. By the time I left the office, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a cloak of shadows. I took my usual route home, the familiar streets now a labyrinth of potential dangers. That's when I noticed it, a car, nondescript, its windows tinted, mirroring my every turn. Panic set in, my heart racing as I quickened my pace, the car keeping a constant, menacing distance. In a desperate bid for safety, I ducked into a crowded cafe, my breath ragged, my mind racing. The car drove past, but the sense of relief was short-lived. I was no longer just Sam, the data analyst. I was a target, hunted by an unknown enemy for reasons beyond my comprehension. I couldn't go home, not with the threat looming over me. I checked into a hotel under a false name, a pitiful attempt to throw my pursuers off the scent. But the night was long and fraught with imagined noises, each creak and whisper a harbinger of my impending doom. Morning brought no respite, only the stark realization that I had to act, to uncover the identity of my tormentors before it was too late. I retraced my steps, analyzed every interaction, every piece of data that could hold the key to this enigma, but it was like grasping at shadows, elusive and intangible. Days turned into weeks, each more harrowing than the last. The photograph and note were constant companions, a reminder of the invisible noose tightening around my neck. I saw the car again, always at a distance, always watching. In a moment of clarity, or perhaps desperation, I turned to the police, but without concrete evidence. My story was just that, a story, the paranoid ramblings of a man pushed to the brink. It was then, in my darkest hour, that the truth revealed itself, not with a bang, but with a whisper. The photograph, the note, the car, they were not the machinations of an external enemy, but manifestations of my own psyche, a mind fractured by the monotony of existence, crying out for recognition, for meaning in a life devoid of purpose. The realization was both a relief and a burden. I was not hunted but haunted, haunted by the specter of my own insignificance. The enemy was not at my door, but in my head, a creation of my own making. With this knowledge, I sought help, stepping back from the precipice of madness to confront the real adversary, myself. Therapy, introspection, and time became my allies in the battle for my sanity. Looking back, I see now that the thriller was not in the chase, the unseen enemy, or the shadowy car. It was in the human mind's capacity to create its own horrors, to weave tales of intrigue and danger, from the fabric of its fears and desires. My life has since returned to its predictable rhythm, the photo and note relegated to the annals of a time best forgotten. But the lesson remains, a cautionary tale of the fine line between reality and the constructs of our own making. So to those who find themselves on the brink teetering on the edge of their own personal thriller, remember this: the greatest stories, the most intricate mysteries, are often the ones we tell ourselves. And sometimes the key to the plot, the twist that brings it all together, lies not in the shadows of the world around us, but in the light of our own understanding.